Hey guys, it's Christian from Lost in Discovery and welcome back to my One Piece journey. Today we're going to be talking about the Enies Lobby arc, which is chapter 375 to 430. The same thing has happened again where I finished this a couple weeks ago, but so many things were going on, I didn't have a minute to sit down uninterrupted and just blurt out my thoughts to the camera. It feels kind of weird being back in front of the camera after not doing this for so long. It's been no secret that I have fallen in love with this series and I've enjoyed my time with One Piece so much ever since the very beginning. But the way fans talk about One Piece, they say it's the greatest of all time, that it's the GOAT, that it is the top shelf manga, one of the greatest stories, not only in manga, but of all time. And, you know, I've been reading this for over 400 chapters now, and I've really enjoyed it, but I've been waiting to get a peek or a glimpse or an idea of why people say that. Yeah, and I get it. I totally get it now after reading this arc. There is no doubt in my mind that this is going to be one of my favorite things I've ever experienced, especially after, where do we even begin with Enies Lobby? To just cut to the chase, this is my favorite arc of One Piece. This is one of my favorite storylines that I've ever read, and the amount of build-up and payoff build-up that we had in Water 7 that has been paid off so well and so brilliantly in Enies Lobby was just overwhelming to read. It was just an absolute joy and emotional roller coaster every time I sat down and read a few chapters of Enies Lobby. So, without further ado, let's get into the review. This arc and Water 7 really feel, I know they're part of the same saga, but it really feels like one big story, whereas each other arc has kind of felt a little independent from each other. This, from Water 7 to Enies Lobby, has a really, really nice flow to it. Where Water 7 was the build-up, Enies Lobby is definitely, without a doubt, the extremely chaotic and bombastic climax. So we have the whole crew racing with the sea train all the way to Enies Lobby, leading into some of the most satisfying fight scenes I've ever seen. And we have, of course, the Sniper King with them. Who knows where Usopp is? I mean, Chopper and Luffy seem to accept Sniper King for who he is. The other guys seem to think it's Usopp. And I did too, but after talking to you guys, I don't know what I was talking about. Oda just wastes no time. They burst into Enies Lobby and Luffy starts taking on every bloody Marine in the entire universe and just asking them where Robin is. I love that. I think I've said it before, but I love when there's an issue or a conundrum and everyone is talking about, okay, we need to go through here first and then go through there and then trick the guy at the gate, then sneak through and then we'll pass through the underground tunnel. They go through all these plans and Luffy's like, yeah, that sounds good. And then he just yeets himself over all the gates of Enies Lobby. He's like, where is Robin? Let's do this. And I identify with Luffy's energy. I really do. And the design, again, Oda just knocks it out of the park every time you see a new location in One Piece, and the design of Enies Lobby is amazing. I love the panels showing the maps and the plan the Straw Hats made and the Galilei Company with the Frankie family. I love seeing the sort of, I don't know, I just love a good map. I think it's just the fantasy reader in me and the nerd within me. Show me a map, show me the plan, and Oda always does that. Enies Lobby was such a cool location to explore because whilst it looks simple, like a kind of like a giant holding prison, surrounded by, I guess, a just drop to nothingness in the water, with the gates of justice being this huge backdrop to the whole thing. It was very dramatic, very high stakes, and just showed you the severity of the situation they were in. And one of my favorite Gum Gum attacks was shown right at the beginning here, the Gum Gum ally robot, where Luffy twisted himself around a marine and basically turned him into a mech, more or less, and started attacking people. the perfect balance of humor and action and heart in One Piece, as always. Here we kind of got a better look at the members of CP9. We got the lineup shot with all the nice introductions with their names and their kind of reputations. Just a bunch of goofy evil antagonists, as you tend to see in One Piece. I forgot his name, but the guy with the zipper mouth, like, I still don't even know what to make of that bloke. Like, just when you think you're ready and are prepared for the designs of Oda's characters, you see the bloody zipper mouth and you're like, what is that? And I'm pretty sure at some point Luffy actually says, what the hell is that? I like sort of seeing the beef between Jabra and Lucci and just seeing the inner dynamics of CP9. You know, after seeing them as the Galley-like company through most of Water 7, it was kind of nice to get a bit more of an insight and kind of seeing how they're meddling with devil fruits and trying to enhance their powers right at the beginning of this arc. And there were so many cool moments as the Frankie family, the Straw Hats and Paulie and all of them with the two giant bulls, they're all rushing into this and they're all having their amazing character moments. Nami's got her new climbing baton, Paulie's got his rope going. We get glimpses of Frankie and Robin kind of bonding, being stuck. Honestly, it was just an absolute adrenaline rush to see all these guys kick ass, take names, and just rush as fast as they can and as quickly as possible to find Robin. As fast as they can and as quickly as possible. Those are the same thing, Christian. Shut up. And I love seeing, even though, you know, doesn't look like Paul is going to be part of the crew, but I swear he could have fit in really well. I loved when he told Zoro, you know, when you run into the Galley-like company, tell them they're fired. And Zoro's like, yeah, no problem, mate. And he actually smiled. And every time Zoro smiles, it's like a special moment, man. It's if he shows any sort of emotion, it's a big moment for Zoro. And Oda does the amazing tease of setting up the fight between Luffy and Blueno. I don't know how to say his name. The guy who gets his ass kicked by Gear 2. He sets up that fight and kind of jumps away for quite a number of chapters, just leaving you waiting to see what Luffy's going to do there. And I love the line where Blueno asks Luffy, like, what are you doing? Like, how long can you keep this up for? And Luffy's like, I'm going to keep doing this till I die. And I don't know, man, just the way that was written and the moment it hit in, it hit just right, as always with One Piece. And just when you start to think that all of these arcs kind of stand on their own and don't have too much of a connection to the greater world, Oda loves to remind you that he's crafting an epic tale of epic proportions. And we get introduced to these two giants who are actually mates with what were their names? Oggy and Broggy from Little Garden. And I love this connection to the world. It keeps it feeling like it's interconnected. It keeps it feeling like these passing moments in the earlier arcs and all of the arcs are going to be relevant and pay off later. It's sometimes you forget that this is one giant world that connects. And I feel like the series is starting to get in its stride in reminding me of that and finding a good balance of creating an arc that's kind of contained in a storytelling sense whilst having those other world building and callback moments that make it feel a bit more tangible and living and breathing. And this is where the Sniper King, really gets the beginning of his moment to shine, his kind of reintegration back into the crew and being like, hey, I know Dory and Broggy, that's not the case, you've been blackmailed, you gotta fight for me. And when Usopp rocks up with the two giants to fight the Marines, I was just like, this guy has come so far from this guy with his little onion and those kids that he was playing with in the initial arcs at Orangetown to this moment leading into battle with two giants. It really, like, it's so strange to say this, but these battle moments actually kind of took me back to Lord of the Rings, funnily enough. It's not a series I often mention, but they had very, very, like, the arrivals and the entrances and kind of the pushing into Enies Lobby kind of took me back to Helm's Deep mixed with, like, the climax of Return of the King. These characters have badass entrances. It's just enough said, right? Like, honestly, Gamora arriving with Sanji and Zoro, them cutting down the wall for the bull and just being like, what's up, with the Frankie family to all the Marines. There was just so much hype. Okay, the time has finally come. I mean, I'm going to say that a lot because there's a lot to talk about in this arc, but the time has finally come to talk about second gear, or gear second, or gear 2, whatever you say, because I was watching the anime as well. It's all blurred in my head how to say things, but second gear, man. This fight, I just was not prepared for Luffy to pop off this hard. If you are a fan of Stormlight, which some of you will be because you're subscribed to me, Luffy going into gear second really felt like a Kaladin Stormblessed moment, especially with all the steam. It took me right back to reading Words of Radiance, and that is like the highest praise I could ever give any sort of book or story. I liked that it wasn't just like a random power-up. Luffy kind of explained, hey man, I've been watching you with your shave techniques and I see you jump 10 times really quickly to move super fast. Through the dialogue of the fight, you understand that he's kind of compressing, he's speeding up his blood flow or something or other. I forgot exactly, but I appreciated that there was some sort of One Piece scientific logic behind it. I love a good power-up, but I also love to understand why it works beyond just willpower or like really wanting to beat him and save Robin. I like seeing that Luffy can get extremely creative, and that seems to be, at least as I understood it, what he's done with Gear Second here. And especially watching the scene in the anime, oh my god, it was incredible. Just the speed and the determination and just the smarts that Luffy shows in that fight, incredibly satisfying to read. And honestly, what made these initial fights work so well at the beginning of this arc is how passionate all of our guys are for what they are fighting for and what they believe in. We've got the Frankie family, who are just like the most lovable bros and girls fighting to save their boy Frankie. They'll do anything for him, and they've found such a bond with the Straw Hats as well, even saying they are the Straw Hats at some point to throw off Spandam, which was a great moment. We have the entire crew who are so set on saving Robin. They feel this in their heart, they know she's a good person, and they will do anything it takes to fight for them and to fight for her. And Paulie, he's just using his rope and just choking people because he's just cool, isn't he? But it really, in the visuals, in the dialogue, you really felt the sense of urgency, and that felt the sense of desperation all of these characters had in these fights. Because if they didn't have that, if that wasn't part of it, if it was just like kicking down CP9 and the Marines, it would be cool, but it wouldn't hit as hard as it did. And it took the build up of Water 7 and everything we've experienced so far, honestly, to make these scenes hit harder than anything else so far in One Piece. This is where we lead into what is the most emotion, the most heartbreak, the most despair and misery and inspiration and just all the emotions, the most I've felt in One Piece, which is Robin's backstory. And man, is it going to be hard to talk about this one because it was one of the most tragic things I've ever read, with an incredible moment of payoff at the end. And I love how just before we get into those moments, you know, after Robin is screaming she wants to die, when all the Straw Hats are there facing her in that epic shot where they're finally there ready to save her and she screams she wants to die, and we get that dialogue from Frankie, and Frankie's like, what kind of burdens does this woman have? Because like this is tough to see. And I just find Frankie as well to be such a well-written character. Oda really shows all the different shades of grey and all the nuance to these characters that, you know, upon looking at them, anyone who looks at these volumes of One Piece who doesn't read it or who's not into it, like my friends would just think I'm reading the most silly stuff. But it's these moments that really make these characters three-dimensional. Also, just looking at my notes here before we get into the depressing portion of the video, I wrote, this frog is amazing in capital letters. So yeah, the frog that grew up around Frankie and Iceberg and Tom, absolutely popping off. And I like that even the frog has a backstory. And when the frog is like screaming like, yeah, into battle, there's nothing else I need to say. Okay, let's go into the lovely backstory of Nico Robin. So the beginning of Robin's backstory was very reminiscent to me, funnily enough, with all the very mainstream references I'm making right now, even though One Piece is kind of mainstream too. But it really reminded me of Harry Potter living at the Dursleys, you know, no parents, crappy auntie uncle situation, and just being a social outcast completely. And I loved how Oda started this flashback sequence with little to no dialogue, and we really had quiet moments with Robin in her childhood, going through her day and just getting a peek into how much she's struggling and how much she is isolated. She's cleaning up the house. The local children think she's a freak, as do their parents, and she's completely shunned by society, it seems, at that moment. And before I really talk about it, the mystery to me is, as far as I can tell, I don't think we actually saw how she got her devil fruit powers. We just know that she's eaten some sort of devil fruit by the time she was 8 years old, so I believe there's more to tell with Robin's story here. But again, her island and the Tree of Knowledge and its design was beautiful. And oh god, I'm sorry with all the references, but it took me back to Avatar, the blue people, the blue alien Avatar with their huge tree with all the ancestors' memories and stuff like that. It really was reminiscent of that for me too. And it was so nice to see that, okay, she has nothing, but at least she has this amazing team and a lovely old professor and all of these archaeologists and historians that really love and care about Robin. So she had a purpose, and it just really clicked as to, you know, why she does care so much about the poneglyphs and all of that. And it really killed me that even though she's using her devil fruit powers to look into the 100 years of missing history, the archaeologists are doing this to protect her and saying, you know, you can't do this, get out of here. But I hate misunderstandings. It just destroys me inside when I see misunderstandings, especially with a child who's as innocent and as shunned as Robin. Like, Oda's just kicking you in the gut at this point. But then we are introduced to the lovely, lovable ex-marine, yes, giant jaguar, D. Saul. Just like the last character I expected to have the D in his name was this bloke, bloody Saul Goodman. I just did not expect it. And I don't know if it's Olivia or Olvia because of just translations and the way it's written sometimes in the anime and manga. We see Robin's mother and we see how she's been wanted by the Navy and the Marines for looking into this 100 years of history. She's lost her husband and she is just doing whatever's in the best interest for Robin, right? And she left her as a young child. And what's in Robin's best interest is having no connection with her mother, even though she's gotten the sense that her mother's back. And these panels of them just kind of passing each other without knowing, just being so close to reuniting, but Robin not even knowing it's her mother and her mother not really even knowing it's Robin. It was just brutal to read, and just the desperation in Robin's heart knowing that, you know, her mother was in trouble and her island was going to be under attack. It was just, I felt like Oda, he can capture so much silliness and so much wackiness and funny expressions, etc. in these panels. But when it comes to like sadness and emotion and desperation, ever since when Nami asked for help back in Arlong Park, those panels, I swear he's just on another level. And I loved seeing the relationship between Robin and Saul grow, and the dedishishi laugh that he does and how she uses it to try and bring herself up in these moments of misery. I'm so glad that at least in this terrible world that she grew up in, she had a few nice people, a few nice interactions, a few people who loved her and showed her the time of day that she deserved. And with this, we get so much world building history, it is ridiculous. And I'm not going to be able to sum all of it up because it's just so dense, but there seems to have been a kingdom that was living in this 100 years of missing history in One Piece. And it looks like the poneglyphs that they've left are the messages that they are trying to give to the future society, and the people who have wiped them out have formed the world government. That's the very simple version that I'm understanding in my brain at the moment. Of course, all of these poor archaeologists are executed, and Robin and her mother finally are able to look at each other and run into her arms and just reunite. And these panels, I was tearing up during this whole backstory. It was just so touching and so well done. This interaction was all too brief, but at least I'm so glad they at least had it. But the moment where her mother is telling her to like preserve this history and keep fighting for it for her people, as Saul has taken her away, and the tears, I'm just throwing out all the references today, but it took me back to the first episode of Attack on Titan where Eren's mum is telling him to live before dying, and I wish I was more articulate. I think it's just showing how much these scenes broke me. Just the conflict that we saw with Saul, where he's like, I don't know what justice is anymore, but I just want to protect my friend. And him just sacrificing his life for Robin. And just abandoning everyone who knew him, everything he stood for at some point, for this little girl that he's bonded over, and her mother that he's befriended to some degree, as much as they could be friends. But it's just these grand gestures of people realizing what truly matters in their life and acting upon it when the time is called for it were just so powerful to read. You truly see the destruction of these busticles, and I was not ready at all for some of the decisions Oda made in this flashback. I know he has the weakness of not killing people in the present day arcs. I didn't realize how far he was going to go in the flashbacks. The fact that they had the entire boat, the entire ship of citizens escaping Ohara blown up as well. And the fact that just before that, all of them didn't let Robin on the ship because they thought she was a monster and this was all her fault. These were some of the most heavy-hitting scenes I've ever read. And it's in freaking One Piece, man. I was astounded at how much Oda committed to the darkness of this tale. And I'm so glad that he did, because it's just, as I always say, it's elevated the series to another level for me. I'm well aware right now, as I speak to you, I'm not doing the best at putting together my thoughts for this, because I'm looking at my notes. It's what I was typing and writing down as I read it, and it just says, this is one of the best things I've ever read. And I think that just sums it up. I think that's all I really need to say. For the play-by-play and all the little moments, let's save it for the live stream, because I'm just gonna stumble through it and not really articulate how I feel properly. The last two key moments of this flashback that I do want to mention is just the further insight into Aokiji, and seeing that he did spare Robin, and even though he was attacking Saul, the way he kind of parted the sea for her, and that look of the ice carving this path for her, and she's on this lone ship, she's lost everything, her mother, her friends, her family, Saul. She's just rowing by herself, spared by Aokiji, who said she's going to hunt her down if she does anything ever again. And all she can do is the dedishishi laugh that Saul taught her while she's bawling her eyes out. And at this moment, I was destroyed. I was destroyed reading this. It was incredible. And we have arrived at the moment, the strongest payoff, some of the strongest payoff I've ever read, I've ever experienced. And it's the moment where the Straw Hats are lined up, they're looking at Robin. And Luffy's like, say you want to live. Say you want to live, because we're here to save you. And you get all these moments of her reminiscing over her life, all the terrible things have happened, and how Saul told her, like, you're gonna have friends, you're gonna have genuine friends that you're gonna fight for, and they'll take care of you. And it clicks in her mind, and she screams, I want to live, take me to sea with you. I could barely see the page at this point. My eyes were literally like a waterfall at this point. And the way that he tells Sniper King Usopp to shoot down the world government flag, and he just screams, bring it on, to all of CP9 and the world government. This is the best moment in One Piece so far. There is no contender. This is the best moment in One Piece so far, and one of the best things I've ever read in my entire life. This was so earned, so well executed. It was perfect. And I could, when you can barely see the page through the tears, something good has happened here. Oda is amazing. And just when I couldn't see the page very well as well, we got Frankie's crying, and he's like, I love you guys. It was just the perfect icebreaker for that moment, of just that moment of levity, of like, yes, we're all good, let's go, let's get back to it. And Frankie just fits in so perfectly, don't you think? He's just amazing. Just when you thought the fights were hitting perfectly in the initial part of Enies Lobby, How do you think I handled it when I saw all of the fights happening after this moment from Robin and the crew? Like, my God, these were the best fights. Well, there's been really good fights, let's be real. These were some of the best fights in One Piece. Frankie rips up the blueprints, we're all on the same page, let's freaking go. Of course, the first thing Oda does is say, hey look, there's an elephant fruit, where Spandam's sword, I guess, becomes a freaking elephant. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm back to classic One Piece. We're right back into the thick of things. The emotional backstories are done. We're dealing with elephant swords. Not only the elephant sword, we have Zoro literally using Usopp as his sword handle as he's taking on the Marines, and CP9 as well. I just loved how much laughter and levity Oda chose to inject right after this moment from Robin, because it felt like I could finally breathe for a minute. Just to hit home to you how much Robin's backstory hit home to me, after I read this and we had the I want to live moment, I was talking to my mum at dinner and I literally recited Robin's entire backstory from childhood to the moment she wants to live, and even my mum was like, wow, that's actually powerful. And I'm like, yes mum, it's time to read One Piece, let's go. When you recite an entire most of an anime arc to your mother, that's when you know things may have gone too far. Maybe it started when I made the channel, but look, this is where I'm at in my life. I'm just going to embrace it. I love Chopper. Who doesn't love Chopper, right? He is the cutest, most adorable little thing in the entire world until we see his monster form. And look, before we talk about that, I really appreciated the flashbacks with Dr. Kuriha. Didn't think we'd see her again. Just every time Drum Island is mentioned, I shed a single tear and remember the good old days. But look, Chopper's monster form is literally nightmare fuel. There is no other way around it, and especially in the anime with the sound effects they had, I'm terrified of this guy. It was amazing. He was just, the way he threw the CP9 agents around and just destroyed everyone in his path, and the classic thing of they're so crazy they can't recognize their friends. It was amazing to watch him just pop the hell off. It's even better because it's just a cute little Chopper. I loved it. Here is my only criticism. This is my only criticism of this arc. I really tried. I'm like, if you're gonna review it, you gotta pick out some criticisms, alright? It can't just be hype the whole time. The only thing that really stood out to me, and I was like, wow, Oda, with the fan service, it felt way too on the nose, when we've got all our Straw Hats versing a member of CP9, Nami versing Khalifa. And of course her devil fruit is the bubble fruit, and she's got to cover everyone in soap to make them weaker, whatever it is, really, whatever the dynamics are. It just felt like, okay, let's get Nami all shiny, and the panels and the angles, it just felt like Oda was having a little bit too much fun, if you know what I mean. Now, having said that, I will specify what I'm saying here. It only began like that. The fight actually turned out to be really creative and really fun, especially seeing Khalifa's really silly forms, like the sheep, the soap sheep, so stupid but so perfectly in tone with One Piece. But really seeing Nami use this new climate baton and doing all of her mirages and really outsmarting her opponent here. It was one of her best fights, and probably her best fight, to be honest. Nami was absolutely popping off, showing a lot of creativity, and I just wish they didn't keep pairing up Nami with another female, just like the girl on girl fight. Let her take Lucci. Let's see that happen. Maybe not yet. Let her get a little stronger. But yeah, I want to see a bit more variety with Nami, to be honest, because it kind of feels like she's a little pigeonholed in some of these fight scenes in terms of just like Nami will verse the girl, because naturally that's what should happen. Maybe it's just a product of its time. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking it. This is me trying to find flaws in One Piece. It's kind of hard. And whilst Usopp has been doing his best and being amazing in Enies Lobby, he's kind of reaching his limit versing some of these CP9 guys. And luckily Sanji arrives. And I love the conversation between him and Sanji in this scene. I feel like I've missed Sanji for a long time. I feel like ever since Baratier, I haven't really had a good insight into Sanji, and it was his conversations here with Usopp that really reminded me why I really loved his character, and I really hope we get more of this as we continue. I'm just gonna read what I wrote about what he said here when he said, Sanji says, everybody has things they can and can't do. Leave this key to me and I'll do what you couldn't do and you'll do what I couldn't do. I just love this moment of understanding between the two. Like, Usopp has his strengths, Sanji has his strengths. Let's divide the labor. You don't have to be Luffy. You don't have to be Zoro, Usopp. You can just be you. You can just be the Sniper King you are, mate. You got a theme song. Like, embrace it. And I feel like Usopp's finally starting to come to terms with this, and he's finally just being okay with being who he is. He's getting there. And Sanji understands that and empathizes with that and knew exactly what to say in that moment. And I was like, damn, respect to Sanji right there. And we got the first use of Jamble, or whatever it is, where he turns so quickly that his foot goes on fire. Hell yeah, man. More of this, please. More of this, please, with Sanji. Let's power up this kick to Luffy levels of OP. And Kaku versus Zoro was very interesting beyond just like the banter and the kind of giraffe puns and the crap talking between them. It was interesting how Kaku saw Zoro as a demon with 3 heads and 6 arms at some point. A moment like that in One Piece, I'm not going to ignore that. That feels extremely relevant. I've always been saying for a long time, something's going on with Zoro. He's got some sort of power or something. And I feel like we're getting glimpses of it each and every arc. I don't know what it is, but I just thought, I'm going to say that because maybe I'm onto something. I loved when Zoro put on the bandana and Kaku was like, does that really make you stronger? And he's like, let's find out. I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, it makes him stronger. Like, that bandana, if I wore that, I would feel a little stronger too. I mean, it wouldn't be as cool. I think I'd just look like an idiot, but it's all about your mentality. And then Zoro, after winning the fight, tells Kaku, hey, Paulie said you're fired. Goated. Nothing else to say. And when it cuts back to Robin being dragged by Spender, getting slapped by him, getting knocked around, the Buster Call has accidentally been called. It is just the highest stakes possible at this moment, and she is literally biting onto a stone bridge. She's biting onto a stone bridge as she's being dragged because she wants to live so much, and she even says it or thinks it in that moment. It is amazing what Oda has done with Robin, and it's just showing from being so down and desperate and wanting to die to finally admitting she wants to live and wants to live for the Straw Hats, and just showing the length she will go to right after saying it. It wasn't just talk, she's literally biting stone, dude, as she's being dragged. Like, incredible. Let's cut to the incredible fight scene between Luffy and Lucci. There were so many moments in this that I can't even begin to break it down. But just when you've gotten Gear 2, we go straight to Gear 3, where he like inflates his bones or something, and these panels with Luffy's fist being the size of like an elephant hitting Lucci was so damn satisfying. And these weird insights we got, as far as I understood it, into Lucci's backstory being 13 and taking on all these people and being immune to gunshots. Like, what is this guy? What is this guy? I mean, he's got Hattori the Pigeon, who I've confirmed as a pigeon now with the incredible swag. But what actually is he? Because I feel like even with a short backstory like that alluded to, Oda has a lot more to say with Lucci. In this fight, Luffy destroys an entire ship with one punch. I don't want to say anything else about it. That's all I'm going to say. That's what happened, and that's why I loved it. I'm very simple. And these vice admirals and admirals really don't play. That even the marine who's like, why are we killing this ship with 1,000 people? And the vice admiral just shoots him in the head. I love that. I don't love that, but I love that Oda is raising the stakes. It feels like he's not afraid to get his hands a little dirty in this story, which is what I've been really wanting from the beginning. And it was incredible to see, because you actually start worrying for these characters. You start worrying for their safety. I don't necessarily think any of the Straw Hats are going to die, but when you're caught up in the moment, you start to worry a little bit, especially with these powerful people like Lucci. Maybe they won't kill Luffy or kill Usopp or whoever, but maybe they'll do some irreversible damage. I'm still waiting to see how Luffy gets this, cross scar on his chest. There are all these questions, and I don't believe that Oda will leave these characters so stagnant or stop their development, or I don't think he'll be afraid to change who they are in significant ways to see how they struggle through that. So I like that he's upped the ante with these villains and showing how ruthless some of them can be. I loved Usopp yelling to Luffy when he's down and beat by Lucci, being like, beat him so we can all sail the sea together. It's like, that's all Luffy needed to hear. I love these moments of clarity that the crew, and especially for Usopp to be there in that moment, to provide that moment for them, and to get him out of there with Robin's help. It was astounding. It was an incredibly intense. It's all a blur to me right now, but the way they escaped was great. Just seeing Usopp take off his mask finally and being like, this isn't the afterlife, Luffy, get your act together and we're gonna go together. And Luffy's like, I know, like from their fight in Water 7 to get to this point of payoff, it's just so earned. That's the thing that has really struck me with this arc. There are huge moments and they are earned, which is the most important thing. Oda has done all the groundwork. He's put in all the conflict, put in all the detail that is needed for this to pay off and hit emotional highs that not much else can compare to. And there's one last thing I've got to talk about, because Robin's backstory wasn't the only thing making the pages blurry for me. It was truly the return of the Going Merry and realizing that it's pretty much sentient because of the love and care that the crew has given to it. I don't know who said it. No, it was Sanji, right? He said like there's one more crewmate coming, and as soon as I believe it was Sanji who said that, I was like, no freaking way, you're kidding me. It's gonna be the Merry. Seeing the story behind the Merry getting repaired by Iceberg, because it hears it talking, the spirit of the ship, and how it thanked him for letting it sail one more time to save the crew, and the goodbye scene with the Merry was, I don't know, the thing is about the Merry, right, it's not like something you really notice, as bad as it sounds to say that, but it's just there. I just became so accustomed to the Merry being there, and I had seen things in One Piece. I didn't know if the Merry was going to get upgraded or they were going to get a new ship, but I certainly didn't expect it to be sentient, alive, loving and caring and understanding of its world around it. I mean, we got glimpses of that in Water 7 and Skypiea, I suppose, but I guess I'm saying I wasn't prepared to feel this much, to cry over this ship being destroyed. And the conversation it has with Luffy, and the way Luffy is bawling his eyes out, saying, we didn't take care of you enough, we should have done better, like, you're the best. And Merry thanks them for loving it, taking care of it, and wouldn't change anything for the world, basically, and said it was happy. I lost it. Like, it was devastating, and just seeing all the crew bawling their eyes out. Everyone bawling their eyes out, including me, except Zoro, of course, the stoic bastard. Where is your heart, Zoro? How could you not cry? Between the Merry, between the character moments, Robin's backstory, these amazing fights, the way it connects to the greater world, the way it's building to such a grand story, and the way Oda's leaving breadcrumbs whilst giving us an entirely well-rounded arc that is about so many things. It's like, I'm not going to get too analytical, but he's talking about so many important issues, whether it's the human condition, to political drama, to the nature of history and the world, how much we owe to keep to the truth. Like, there's just a lot going on in these arcs. You could study them, you could put them in an English class, you could write essays on this, or you could just gush to a camera like me and say it was really cool when Luffy punched a ship in half. There's something for everyone, and it is done so well. It has cemented One Piece as an experience I'm never ever going to forget. I'm finally back to physical volumes after this. I got the one volume of post Enies Lobby that I'll read online, but after that I have got pretty much all of the hard copies, and I'm so keen to just hold that in my hand again and have that classic One Piece experience that I had from the very, very start. So look, you'll be hearing from me soon with post Enies Lobbies. It's only like 10 chapters. I hope it's light. I hope it's just banter with the crew, chilling, looking at where they're going next, because I can't handle more intensity right at the moment. I just ease me back in, Oda, and I'll be happy. After the post Enies Lobby video, we'll do our Water 7 Saga live stream where we can go through all my notes properly, you can ask me questions, and we can talk deeper about it. And it looks like I'll be having a special guest for that live stream as well, so look forward to that. Thank you so much for listening to my extremely long, scatterbrained, all over the place thoughts on Enies Lobby. I apologize, this was very rambly and ranty, not very analytical, but One Piece has kind of broken my brain, and this is what you get. This is what happens when that is the case. Hope you're all well. I'll see you very soon in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.